Okay, we are live now.
Tuma hiyo link huku tuone.
Okay, and the link is.
Yeah, seen it. Oof.
So, how's the week been? Nane
So far
nane
so good.
ilienda.
Nane
Mm.
haikufika usiku wa manane.
Haikufika usiku wa manane.
Mm.
I joined us this morning, and I was hearing Kenya Daima
Mm.
trying to raise money for some guys stuck in CBD. They had come from Isibani or somewhere.
Mm.
I think wangetumia hiyo message Makena Mwita awatumie chap chap.
Mm. Well, they did what they could. Say doing what
Mm-hmm.
you can with what you have is the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. But they said the comment, the buzzword is hatutoki CBD paka ashuke. Um, I have to be a bit realistic sometimes. I have to be realistic.
Yeah, and exactly. I think that's what has been happening because even think about just those boys that came all the way from Isibania. They came because the plan was maybe traders have been asked to come, provide food, make set up tents. All these sort of idealistic ideas, and that's what I keep seeing. That's why I feel is it's kind of like, and these boys came and they didn't have fare to go back. They even they
For
joined
something to
place like
work,
we haven't eaten. There's an
for
ideally that we have good and bad. It's good and bad in the sense that I think the bad part is you're not in touch with a certain sense of reality. You're just caught up in some emotion, and that's what I feel many people are. And unfortunately, we don't have sort of the adults in the room are not. They've also sort of gotten caught up in that sense of emotion and are not sort of hitting those Gen Zs in the head. Pop, wake up.
well,
So
the initial bit they said they don't want interference, and there was a time I actually said I don't want to advise them because it
yes.
seemed they they had everything uh, worked out,
Mhm.
and they were talking of making the big man resign.
Mhm.
So, how do you make a president resign? For example, the way our system works, most of the time you don't know where the president is. They are the
Mhm.
state house, the state lodge Nakuru, the state house Mombasa. So if you're
Mhm.
going to march to state house Nairobi and is in Mombasa, how is he going to resign? So I think it's time we say okay, you have raised our attention. We know something is wrong. So what next? And I've said it over and over and over. One of the most disruptive ways is now this is the Gen Z getting into power. I'm yet to see any young person declaring his interest in vying for some political seat somewhere. Even if you look
Yeah.
at the so-called the former young Turks, as they used to be, They did their sting on the streets, but they had a parallel plan on standby to get into power. Some are deputy governors, some became ministers, whatnot. I believe Orengo is one of them. You cannot win any. The street is like turbo and torque, horsepower and torque. Horsepower will enable you to launch at very high speed. Torque will keep you running, especially when there's a load placed on your shoulder. The horsepower was very good. You gained attention. Even we had members of, I think, Ghanaian parliament saying, let's make the correct decisions before our youth flash us out of parliament, like what happened in Kenya. Now you have attention. Now, what do you do with the attention? My, my,
100%.
what turned out to be a bit disappointing is that Gen Z did not showcase the technological prowess in coming up with things for the government to do. Because let's face it, government is an administrator. Government is not very good at creating things. Creativity, part of the creativity aspect of government is next to zero. Even look at the way the government website looks like. Most government website look very nakaa tu ilitengenezwa tu saa kumi na moja jioni tu. They look very, you don't really associate government with creativity. But then if they are willing to talk, you say, okay, listen, we've pushed hard. Now this is what we want, and give what we call items that have a predictable outcome. That's what lacked. We knew what we did not want, but Palia, what we want, that finishing is like a boxer who's very good at applying pressure, but ile finishing to knock out the opponent, now we have a problem.
Yeah.
You are giving opponent time to recover, strategize,
Yeah.
and
With those start and stop demonstration. Oh, we are meeting
yeah,
next week Tuesday. We are meeting after 2 weeks on Thursday. All that.
and end game. What
And
is the end game? When I listen to some of the guys and say,
exactly,
this guy has to go, this guy has to come down. From where?
it's a stupidity. It's stupidity. And I think
I
they
don't
need
want to. I don't want to look like the guy who's the prophet of doom. But I think I've been in this country for quite a while now. No way a man who has worked the political system, mpaka anakuwa president, is going to be, is going to, I don't know, have some sense of guilt that you are resigning because guys are causing fracas on the street. It looked it looked very strange. It looked very. I didn't want to tone down on their hopes, but deep inside I knew you can always leave 1.5 or 0.5% for a miracle somewhere, but 99.95. In fact, with the what we call it, the way police work, police works under IPOA, the independent what that. So the president even doesn't have any say over them. Technically, he may make some calls here and there, but the channels, you are you. So the police are simply reacting to a situation on the street. No way police will let you just do some things and maybe a phone call will be made from a politician and whatnot. But there are methods when you follow, yes, they'll rouse some emotions. The people feel, oh, jamaa wamekaliwa, oh, this is unfair. But presidency is not won by emotions. The
yeah, and I
presidential,
can feel
the
it
power,
in your
the
voice.
power is just too much for it to be shifted
Yeah.
due to emotions. Maybe at
When you
voting stage, at voting,
yeah,
maybe people can vote emotically, but emotions to the president to say, let me resign. We've seen it in some countries, but we don't know the background of those countries.
exactly.
So
One thing I've learned, and I think I felt it in your voice as you were speaking. You are very hesitant, speaking slowly because it's sort of You don't want to sound like the party pooper.
Yeah,
Uh,
like
and
I wish you succeed, but I,
right, and then so, and also I guess they haven't been very receptive to hear other different voices. So it's been more of okay, tuache sasa. Let them do their
because when
thing.
you
Let's
say ati
might have
paka
something that
ashuke, paka ateremke raundi, I'm like, do you know where he is at the moment?
and you see even and that's why it's good to read history
Hmm.
because I think so. Number one, these Gen Zs need to be taught they are not the first, they are not going to be the last. It's not like they have any God given wisdom. They might have done something that we can latch onto and build on, but many others before them and many others after them will do similar feats. So that's number two. And then three, going back to history, you remember even those times of multipartism, the Orengos of the time, even as they were agitating for multipartism, and even that time, there must have been times they were saying Moi must go and all that, but they knew that would take a series of steps to take us there. So the first one they did is a bargain for multipartism. As much as they got the multipartism brought in, Moi was still in power, but they moved a step forward. And that's what also brought in Raila was able to come in with his tinga tinga thing at the time. You know, all these things, it's progress. And I even found it was very unfair to castigate Raila. Yeah, call him what you may want, that he's the guy who is opportunistic. Yes,
But
that's
he's a
what the name of the
politician.
game. That's how things are supposed to do. Even
Let's say
then,
you're in Raila's shoes.
choose.
Then you see
Yes,
the situation happening. Then you see kuna mwanya of slotting your people into into the power, into the vicinity of power. So unainua simu unasema Mr. President, hebu tuongee kidogo. It's like a lion. Lions have no business attacking cows, but if it happens to stumble on a cow, nasema situendelee basi. You are here,
tuendelee.
a cow.
I'm here.
Mr. Lion, I'm also here. So we do what we do. I eat you.
You be my dinner. Then after that, you're much more of an easy target because maybe you
Yeah.
can't run fast. You
As
even
much
have
as
more,
you are
and
not part of
maybe I've
my,
used to
the same as much
your
as you're not part of my daily diet,
diet.
then you will do.
Yeah,
Mm,
you'll do. And
mm,
you might be surprised. You might find that diet, that new introduction, that new dish
mm.
is much more tastier than what he's been
Yes.
used to.
Mm. Now,
So
Raila has gotten his people into power when he lost the election. You've lost your election and you have your people in key positions in power. Yo
actually,
ho!
what I feel now these guys should do is
Mm.
that convention or talk or conference that the president had initially called for. They need to take advantage of it. And this is where they form themselves, they organize themselves, they provide that structure and say, we want to be part of that conversation.
But now the problem is this.
Mhm.
My question, what are they going to say?
You see, that's also the other thing.
Because what I hear is
These guys
we
are
want peace governance, we want no corruption, we want okay, we can say, okay, we'll clear the courts for you for 1 full month. Peleka corruption cases there. Gather what you have and see what you can do. When you are seated in such an it is now time to go technical. Bamboozle the head of state with technical stuff so that politicians are pushed away is now technical to technical.
correct.
Because
You're
the, the,
talking about
the corruption
US.
system, the corruption system is a bit tricky because 9.5 out of 10 of us have benefited in one way from it. Somebody has from your family or from my family or some has part of it some money for you to get something done quickly. You've benefited from it. So hiyo weka kando, work with things that has what you call predictable positive outcome, that hii ikiwa activated kuna at least 40% chance tunaweza pata something good and we move on from there. But these things we are fighting, you want to fight a system that even has the capacity to even remove the president from power, because our system is quite complex. There are so many interests in this system. You can't say you want to stop corruption. Who are you telling to stop corruption? Who are you telling? Naambia nani?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think that's a reality. And that's why I've been feeling okay. So I feel a few people have um the people that we are dearly, I mean, the only person who is in touch with the reality and who has been grounded throughout this process, though he has received a lot of violent hate, has been Raila. Because he came out, he was able to fairly understand the issues that these Gen Zs were agitating for in terms of tangible items, not some generalities and abstract stuff that you can just say good governance, all this stuff. He was able to highlight down, and he said, things like, I remember, I think last Saturday we shared that letter that he had put out,
Yeah, yeah.
which was things, justice for the family that who have lost their loved ones through these protests by way of some kind of a compensation, monetary compensation. See, that's a real tangible item, because the person is gone. The least you can do is sue the state for some kind of compensation. So you need that. Those that have been abducted, released, those that have certain pending court cases, those court cases should be dropped. Those should have been more or less, if those are sort of the non-negotiable that they want to have, because they were saying we don't want to have a talk when all these things are pending. That's not how the world works. It's not. And I think this is part of the reality that they need to come to. And every time I turn on to these spaces, every time, all I'm hearing is a lot of this theoretical conversation. I'm hearing, and I think we have a very learned people that know our constitution. No, constitution versus this, section this, section two. I even don't know half of that stuff these guys have been talking about. And I keep going back to, yes, the constitution tells you can have a peaceful protest where you can picket, you can do whatever. But in reality, is that what has been happening? I think, yes, we can have something on paper that can provide some guidance. But the thing outlined on paper can only occur if the people have I don't know how to put it, probably a mindset. Because I think probably what has happened is the hardware is there in terms of we've been able to codify a number of things, but our mindset is still operating with a set of rules that are not in alignment with the constitution. So, and I think this is what has been the issue. And we've seen it in 2007. The Railas, the Kibakis had to come together and agree on something. In 2018, the wisdom of, when was the handshake? Was it 2018 or was it earlier? Probably earlier. I'm not sure when it was. But the point was, the president then realized to calm down the country, he had to bring in Raila back under what they called the handshake.
Handshake.
These things were not provided for in the constitution. And
You
as
see,
much as human, we want to agree that we've or believe in ourselves that we are disciplined enough to put a set of rules, many a times we don't live up to those ideals. And those ideals can only be achieved in some kind of, I think I'll put it in an informal kind of a way. And because that's how human beings we are, in some sense, at least the Kenyan context. So we need to understand all these dynamics and the context that we've been in, the precedents that we've seen, This not to mean that we can't come out with something new, but even the new becomes almost a kind of a variation of the old in some sense. So there are so many things, and even the youth, as they call out these guys, they need to understand they have also been, in some sense, part of the problem. So that there are a new set of people that have been. These have been our parents, our relatives, our friends, and what they have been doing. Don't think that you're not. You don't think you're any different from them in many sense. You're very much like them, and we pick people who are very much like us. And these people are in many a times voted by us. Ruto didn't come out of the blues. We voted him in. So, and that's what somebody actually put, and I think we had shared it a few weeks ago about it, that democracy does not guarantee that you get a good leader. It's your
You see,
choice, and
there's
that's what
a
choice is.
there's this thing. Okay, yes, the constitution is there, no problem, it will guide you. But as an individual or a group of individuals, it will also be important to have the capacity to adapt to the situation on the ground.
Yes.
When things are getting heated up and bullets are flying all over, you can't go around holding the constitution like this. You'll die with that thing in your hand. So use your the human being is the most intelligent creature in the world. Use it. The man has said we are willing to sit down and talk. You get an audience with the head of state. At least go there with your suggestion and see the feedback. Now you can make your actions based on the feedback you got.
Exactly.
Hmm. Based on that feedback of a face-to-face discussion, and I repeat, an individual who has worked the political system to become president. So you cannot switch, you cannot go there on a political gear and you said, I want good governance. You look at this, yes, I also want good. You tell, yes, hata mimi nataka hiyo good governance. And I'm willing to work with you people to get good governance. And then you say, yes, then you go home. But if you come in with these suggestions using your technical clout, is now opportunity to come with the chapters upon chapters on technical suggestions. Now what you are doing, you are pushing the man back. You are making him consult. You are making, hey, listen, this, like, you remember the day when he was in the US. Then he talked to some lady, I think an American lady. Then he said, hii kizungu yako ni kali. You remember that?
Yes, yes.
Now, I don't say you put on an accent, but come up with feasible suggestions that are technical in nature that will force him now to sit with this, to bring in his team of technocrats. What does it mean? For that period of time, politicians are temporarily out of the picture. Now, you can now hold them to account. Okay, gentlemen, president, he is not to listen. And then there has to be a consensus. Can this work? Yes, it can. What are the benefits? A, B, C, D. Economy, strengthening of the shilling, creation of jobs, vitu kama hizo. It's not just job creation out of job creation in what industry? Currency sovereignty, because of what? Vitu kama hizo. So now no politician can challenge you on that. It is now a technocrat discussion. We are now improving efficiencies. But because by my books, that is the only way forward. Because one, you are not a politician. The system is very unlikely that will allow you to get a position as a CS. And even if you are a CS, let us be realistic. CS positions are so intertwined with the politics. Will you have the experience to handle the politics of the CS positions? You just say, nikipata hiyo kitu, do you know how that system runs?
They know nothing, man. You put them in that job, even for an hour, they'll crumble.
I
For an
remember
hour, don't
Koigi
think
wa
those
Mwere.
because
I remember
it's
Koigi wa Mwere was assistant minister. He was interviewed, saying he
yes.
doesn't know what's going on. There was an interview. He was lying on the couch. He said the guy the minister has amemweka kando,
Uh-huh.
ajui nini inaendelea. So you can be given that CS and be isolated there. Ambia sasa, you have a big car, hmm, you're not getting any
Exactly.
feedback. Yeah. So you handle things from your strength. If your strength is in technology, stick to that. If you are a shark, restrict your battles to the water. Also, don't be a shark, then you jump out of the ocean to go fight a lion on land. The lion look at you and say, hey, food, chakula imekuja.
Mm.
So it's all about learning how to handle systems because you have a very elaborate system that is quite complex that
Mhm.
needs to be handled very tech. Even nani, kuna time alisema this very loud guy of opposition Sifuna said once he got into his position, he realized government system is crazily complex
Mhm.
because he used to say some solutions look very simple, but when you get there, you look at the picture, you say, hey, hapa ni kumoto. Even Muhammad Ali of the Jichopevu, someone accosted him on the street and said, hey, kuliendaje? What did he say? Ai, huko ni kumoto.
No, it's a, and I guess that's a reality that we don't understand. It's a big animal. It's a behemoth. It's a bureaucracy. The
Yes, it
bureaucracy in
is.
some sense protects
Yes,
itself. The
but
bureaucracy is bigger than an individual.
yes, very much. But if you come in with the small, realistic, and realizable goals, you come up with something. You can come up with something, yes, people benefit from it, but the nation will benefit more. Because if you say from now on, every government agency should order at least 50 Taifa laptops, correct? Now, somehow somebody will tamper the price of the laptops. But then again, due to the huge order, many young people get jobs.
No, even
You
if they
can't
were driven in it, it's
hmm.
still a gain.
Still again, those jobs that people watu nani angeajiri hawa watu, let's say the total order for all agency comes to 30,000 laptops. That's quite a huge manufacturing setup by Kenyan standards. Those are many jobs. They can inflate the price by 500%, but we have young men who are getting a salary. You can't
Yeah.
win in every lane.
But you remember also the other thing we said about misaligned uh, incentives. From our point of view, where we stand now, as much as the idea that we've just shared now is, on the face of it, a very brilliant idea. Brilliant in every sense. And it's a gain to everyone. It's a gain to government. It's a gain to the people of Kenya. It's a gain to everyone. But why does it seem so elusive? And I guess this is what you are referring to when you make reference to the likes of Sifuna and Muhammad Ali, sort of their come to Jesus moment when they got into government and realized, yes, I was this idealistic at the time I was entering in government. I was like, man, I'm the man. I'm the man. And I know I'm gonna do this. And this is and you feel like a hero at that point. But you get in there, even the likes of Obamas and others. I'm sure when they were in there, they were thinking, man, let me just get in there, bro. Do this and this, and in like 100 days, I'll have changed the course of government.
But you see now, what the Gen Z had the advantage of momentum. Yes, there may be other parties which are benefiting from you buying HP and Lenovo, but if the wave is so powerful, people say, "Hey, listen, let's just buy this Taifa laptop to calm these guys down." That emotive national push was there. It's like a wave. Now that the wave is coming, put some few items on that wave isukumwe, but the wave turned out to be just maji too. It crashed and the wave just died.
Yeah,
That
that's
time
true.
when the situation was heated up, so that the entire country says mbona vijana wasipate kazi, so that a lot of feedback is coming. Hey, hii taifa laptop mbona mnunui? Now some interest will have to be sort of not destroyed, but put aside. Naambia, listen, we hii ya laptop hii vijana wameleta kufujo, we kaa kando, will create some. Wacha hao vijana tuwatulize na hii kitu. We have a plant that is running, laptops are being supplied at whatever price, but we have like 200 or 300 young men in a laptop assembly facility. It's a win. It's not exactly ideal from top to bottom, but when you have 200 men and women who have been shifted from joblessness to assembling laptops all day and getting money at the end of the month, boss, that's a tick. That's a serious
But
tick.
but I mean, the other thing you have to think of, like for example, I mean, I hope you know the laptop thing is an example, but how many of them are thinking of that?
How many of?
How many? How many of those so-called Gen Z were agitating for that?
That's why when I went into spaces, I always made sure to point those things out. I was very explicit in them. In every space that they were involved, I was very explicit in telling them, listen, guys, you can be emotive to gain attention, but once you've gained the attention, you have to do away the emotions and be clinical. Now, this I don't want this is what I expect. But if you carry emotions all through, for a politician, handling emotions is very easy. In fact, the president handled it so well, he even concluded it with a prayer. If you can remember the space.
Yeah.
Hmm? So there's a need to be, there's a time to be emotional, to raise attention. Then there's a time to be clinical and say, this is what we want. We are aware of this entity. Let's work on this. We are aware that Mobius wants to close down. Why don't you place orders for this vehicle? We have 47 counties, each county to order 20 vehicles. That's 90, that is like 940 orders. No, you're talking of existing entities. You say, Mr. President, mbona unakubali Mobius izime? Sisi tunatafuta kazi. Now that one, yes, we don't know about the what is behind it, but the emotive push of the crowds now creates now, hey, let's hey, jamaa, hebu tuongee nao watu place 1, 2, 3 orders hivi, hii mambo isonge mbele. Now you have used your emotions to gain attention, then you've sneaked in 1 or 2 actionable items. That's how it works. In matters of relationships, when you whistle at a girl and wink at her and she comes to you, tayarisha mistari. You can't be standing next to her and you are whistling and winking. She's amefika hapa, why are you whistling? Rusha mstari sasa, sema unataka nini? Unataka chupi or whatever it is you want to do. Sema. But if you keep on whistling and winking and the ladies next to you, Shiloka sema amepatana na mwenda wazimu leo. So I sincerely hope the next round of activities, whatever Gen Zs are planning, there has to be a workable formula.
Exactly.
Let's not have.
It can't be this protest just non-ending. It's like they're not learning.
Yeah, let's
not
hope
learning.
that we have because the call for good governance ilianza sijui what multi-party ilianza lini 90 what? I don't know which year.
In the 90s, I guess.
In the 90s.
the
Tulikuwa tunasikia hiyo good governance ikiimbwa since it's become like a cliche.
But it's still, yeah, it's still there.
Because your document could define good governance iko wapi? The constitution is there. Yeah, because you can go to a place, you can go to a region whereby good governance means that you are secure, your business is running well, but do not challenge the president. Hiyo ndo good governance by some definitions. If you go to, say, Saudi Arabia, and you can't tell Mohammed bin Salman, we want good governance, I'm challenging you for leadership of Saudi. They'll say, my friend, zima hiyo kitu bwana, whatever you're smoking, badilisha pedi. So now we've had enough of these blanket phrases and utopian-based statements and ideality. Tupe, sema unataka nini, tujenge nini, to develop nini, to improve nini, list them. Now you can hold someone accountable. Sema, Mr. President, mwaka umeisha, mbona mnanunua Toyota Hilux hii Mobius ingetuajiri?
Exactly.
Now you've actually pushed someone to a corner. Mr. President, I've been to Huduma Center, not even a single Taifa laptop. I'm seeing HP, I'm seeing Lenovo, I'm seeing Compaq. Hizi Taifa nani atazinunua? Now those
Not
are
even that. Yeah, those and it's true, because I hope they're reflecting on all these things, because what you're raising here is very important, because even this should be, after somebody mentioned this and said that after the reject the finance bill thing ended and the president dropped, I think that's when subsequently, and then after that march into the parliament, that's when, this thing lost momentum, or rather lost direction. I think the finance bill was something that anyone could rally, who used to rally on. But after that, it just became, oh, Ruto must go, or just mandamano for the sake of mandamano. Oh, we've been tear gas. Oh, we've been this. And the other day, somebody actually wrote a very interesting story. The so-called leaders of the movement, or those that have been seen as the key leaders, many a times when they are caught, they are released almost immediately. Look at the Gaidos, look at the Bonis, look at the Anifas. Do they even stay that long? But who happens to, get lost, and they are lost almost permanently? Who gets to endure those injuries? And some of them are actually fatal enough to kill someone. Others, they suffer something that they have to go to the hospital. The so-called leaders, none of them have suffered an injury. I think sometimes their arrest, I think they have become more symbolic. I even look at this, even this one of Jimmy Wanjigi. I feel it's a whole choreographed thing. How comes this guy always happens to be, anytime he's being looked after, bibi na watoto ndio wataachwa kwa nyumba? I thought those would be the first one to take away, you protect them. So yeye anaenda anajificha mahali, polisi wanapata bibi na watoto, and then they, of course, I've seen even the daughter getting interviewed, and I was just listening to her. She started by saying, I'm a proud daughter of Jimmy Wanjigi. Who starts a conversation by saying that? I'm proud, like you had choreographed that. I mean, you have to look beyond what you're shown on TV, what they allow us to see. I'm always of the opinion what we don't see or hear or get to see is the real thing that is happening. So when you get to see it on TV, ni kama vile Andrew Kibe alikuwa anasema, when you see a camera,
get into character.
Get into character. Somebody has gotten into character. When a camera is shown on you,
Najua huwa anasema, if I may quote what this actor John Travolta was saying, I think he was in Face Off. He says, what the eyes see and the ears hear, the mind believes. So you must have a very powerful internal vetting mechanism ya kusema hii tu ni some sort of background noise to some sort of sleight of the hand as magicians do to confuse. Robert SFDC, karibu sana, welcome to the rambling of two crazy people. Umefika 40 minutes, I think utapata
Yeah.
supu hapo na a few matumbo hapo na a few scoops of rice, lakini karibu sana. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party where we we are discussing on people who said so and so must go. We are wishing them the best, but I hmm, hmm, hapana, hapana
So
namna hiyo.
we need to make back. And you know, this is going to affect. They mentioned that July actually had the worst sales, and it's just because of this perpetual um, protests. I'm sure any time those protests, I listen to the radio every time. Na kama hiyo siku ya hii ya nane nane, I was watching Spice FM in the morning just before going to work, and I listened to their traffic news. And nikisikia traffic inasema the roads are clear. Now police have just installed themselves in several places. So imagine how much business has been lost because people didn't go to work. And you might say, yes, it's bad, but you have to correct the system. Even with the system bad, business has to go on. It's better have a bit of that than have nothing, because now it's going to be even much more painful. How are those
So
young people going to work? Those young people working, by the way, those that are going to go to Mandamanas, are they employed somewhere? How all these are?
I have no
Uh,
idea.
you can't do
I,
this thing for long.
hmm.
Who are these parents allowing these young guys to keep even going? Anyway, they're also adults if they're over 18. But
As long as you're holding an ID.
I hope they are not sleeping at their parents' home.
Unaenda unakaribisha, ambia pole baba.
Kula kunywa chai na mkate. Nitakutolea hizi breadcrumbs, hizi the crust. I even never understood that thing of ati watu utengezewa bread where you're given the middle soft part. Me, I like the harder part, the crust. That's the part hata wakiwa watoi, ile part tulikuwa tunapigania ilikuwa mkate ya nyuma na mbele.
That one was a war.
That was a war.
Breakfast crisis. My
Exactly.
friend, hii kwanza kuna quota sema wewe ndio ulikula mkate ya jana. My friend,
Exactly.
hata
So,
unusa hiyo, please stay
the
away.
rotation.
Otherwise, my friend, will blow the roof of this house. Tutaenda kutafuta mahali pengine pa kulala. So winter is here, they are doing the budgets and tax amnesties. Oh, okay.
I don't
Jumlileta
know if maybe
uharibifu
this
sana.
it might be in relation to might be in relation to of course the budget cuts they did.
Hmm.
So they have because yeah, but yeah, the reality is gonna chip in, and now it's for these young guys to be told get back to work or you're gonna have it harder in the next coming. You know, we are not feeling it, and the more this goes on, we are just putting Kenya at a bad state. And I'm not saying we've been at a good state with the current government, but it gets worse with these continued protests. So it's better, it's high time we realize, yes, as much as we're agitating for progress, there are probably other smarter and better ways to do it than having this continuous protest, because I don't think at the rate at which they're happening, they're now becoming useful.
My take is, as long as no one has put the government on spot over actionable items, you really have, as long as
And
you've made it clear what you don't want, but as long as you haven't told me what you want, it becomes open-ended.
yeah,
It's
how can
totally
I,
open.
how can you negotiate? And then media puts these young guys, and these young guys just ramble. No, we can't have talks and conversation without. Even I see someone like even Robert Alai. He's been practical. I read his tweets. He's probably the most balanced politician that we have out there. Yes, I'm sure he's pushing for his own gains. And which politician doesn't do that? That would be a stupid politician. But I can tell you, Robert Alai is probably the most balanced politician that we have. People say, yeah, he's probably, working for Ruto and stuff like that. But I think he's been fairly balanced.
But he's a
Uh,
politician. A
he's a
politician
politician.
you must have an allegiance somewhere.
Yes.
Hmm. There
And you
must be
must be
some.
pragmatic.
Huh?
Is having an allegiance and being pragmatic, knowing uh, that's why they say even in politics that there are no permanent enemies. The idea to you're saying Ruto, 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 because I even listened to one lady today on one of the spaces, and she was trying to blame all her life's problems to Ruto. Fix your life, fix your life, my dear. I think that's a reality. That part of that's a message they need to learn. That they need to be told to fix their own lives. Because in spite of all those things they are saying Ruto has done, there are people thriving in the system just because they have been smart. The other day somebody was asking how comes an economy like Nigeria, which has got perpetual power outages. It had power outages even before South Africa brought in the so-called
Load shedding.
load shedding. But this economy, despite all those things, emerged as the biggest economy in Africa. Yeah, maybe you can attribute it to their population, which is true. It plays a part in that. But with that said, even in the dysfunction, there seems to be some progress.
They say
In the dysfunction as a country,
there's not.
we've
They say that
we've
there's
had,
nothing like absolute disorder. Even
yeah,
within that disorder, there's some order there.
yeah,
There's nothing like absolute randomness. Inside that
yes,
randomness, there's a pattern. And since we are here and they are there, we only see Nigeria through what is portrayed in the media, where I normally say, uh, out of when you look at a system that seems crazy, it is those who are privy to the system that understand the method of madness to that system. There's a method to that madness. It is working for them. And they are private to it because they understand it. Since I'm about to go, you just see people queuing for fuel and whatnot, and a lot of weird things. But somehow, that method, there's a method to it, and the people understand it, and it's working for them.
correct.
So let's understand our system better.
Let's understand the game and the current rules.
Mm,
And you can only change the game once you're in it.
mm.
You can't change the game from being it's like, I think what's happening now is like we are spectators on the stands, just
Rowdy
making
ones.
noise. Rowdy spectators making noise.
You may
But
throw
then,
some stones to disrupt the game, but I
yeah,
assure you're not scoring any goals.
for sure you're not.
Yes, you may throw some
The
stones.
goal that
The
counts.
the, the,
Mhm,
the referee can and there's a smamisha game for a while, but I
mhm.
can assure even the game can be postponed to another date. But guarantee you from the stands, you are not occurring on your name is not showing up on the score sheets anytime soon.
We have to
Hauko-
understand the game. We are not.
you are not going to
I think
appear on the score sheet.
that's what the youth needs to do, because even think of Raila, even the modus operandi he's been using. Raila Raila's modus operandi seems to be, let me figure out an in into government, where then I can disrupt it.
Yeah,
And
Raila
I think that's
is like someone who uh, watu wamecheza mpira then anapigwa sabu kuingia wakati wa kona. There's a very
Mhm,
crucial corner that is being taken. Ama a
mhm,
penalty has to be taken, yeye ndo anaenda kupiga hiyo penalty.
mhm.
So he came in and scored his people. Mbadi are in there, Joho, Oparanya. You see, those are 3 goals.
Yes.
Three goals clean without sweating the entire 90 minutes. And he lost the election. Where hiyo inatokea wapi? The last time it happened, it was using a nusu mkate, which was pure chaos. The coalition government. But he were just beaten 10-0. Then somehow you find a way ni wakati wa kuscore mabao, you just appear next to the goal mouth and the ball is in your hand and the net is empty. You tap in 3 goals. Now you have people in his party who are flying official flags on SUVs. Angalia hii. Without swallowing a single cubic centimeter of tear gas. Hii imejipa. Hii hata siapsemi hii imeenda, hii imejipa. Imejipa tena vizuri. Hii we used to say hii imeenda, hii imejipa. You're like seated there, shinda hii utapanga vipi? Then somebody appears with a plate of roasted chicken, pork ribs, rice, and thick beef stew. I said, yes, I've been expecting you. So, as Kibe says, if you do not understand the game, you'll be left on the stands.
Mm,
You'll be left on the stands. Um, so far, upande wa bike, we managed to fit the rear brake, but we ran
mhm,
into some snags. The brake is active when the wheels are suspended, but when you brake it when the bike is in motion, the, the brakes are practically dead. But the kinetic energy recovery system works very well to slow down the bike. So we
mhm.
are bringing in someone who's actually an expert in hydraulic brake system for electric bikes, because most of these Buddha borders are cable brakes. So those guys of cable brakes, we know many of them. So for hydraulics, we thought will not guess around hatutabahatisha. So we are bringing in the cause of the incoming week, someone coming in to see if the pump needs to be adjusted and whatnot. There are days then you have to be polite and say, let's get an expert. So, but I'm happy the kinetic energy recovery system works properly. It's that rear brake system that, because we don't want to mess around with people's muscle memory. Muscle memory of a rider is to clutch using the hand.
Mhm.
So if that amezoea ni brake imewekwa hapo, we could cause a serious accident. So we made a decision, rear brake wacha ikae chini. So there are days I used to ask myself, sasa nimejiingiza kwa hii shida kwani, but no, these are things you have to do for the well-being of your customer. The product may be
So
different, but
how I did it, because the rear
huh?
brake is always foot brake. Rear brakes inakuwaga kwa mguu.
Yes, initially the both front and rear brakes were on the handlebar
Oh, okay. Kaa
because it
baiskeli.
has no clutch. But somebody made a decision, a team member said, okay, let's put the rear brake on the foot, not to mess up with the people's muscle memory,
Yeah.
because ile part ambayo tumeweka brake ya nyuma, it's normally in a normal bike is a clutch. So somebody maybe has acquired the bike recently, anaingia barabarani ana rev kidogo, amefinya hiyo kitu, akifikia amezoea ni clutch, inapiga emergency, mtu ameanguka chini.
Actually, have you tried to benchmark with the other current electric bikes?
We have not. I've seen. It was in 2022.
I think they both they have a bar. I mean, like the bike I have,
Hmm,
haina clutch.
hmm,
So hiyo side unaeka clutch, it's empty.
Mm.
There's nothing that I need to press or touch anything, but I'm able to engage the because I'm using a semi-auto.
Mm.
Just engage the brakes without. It doesn't need clutch. And then, of course, on the right hand side is where I have the front brakes.
The front
Na kwa
brakes.
mguu. Yeah, the kwa mguu. So I think you have either of two ways.
Ours, you
Because I've
see,
seen.
the paddle that is left on the left side on our end is for the
Mm.
kinetic energy recovery system. So you can use it to slow down the bike without using any of the brakes.
And yeah, I don't know what the current. I might need to find out. Maybe what you guys have done might be a fairly new and innovative approach, which is good. It's good that you decided one to keep the back brake on the foot as
Mm.
is with other bikes, so there will be no some kind of new training somebody needs to learn to adopt your bike. It's kind of like the same old bike.
Same case. And if
Uh,
accidentally he pulls on that lever, the kinetic energy recovery system does not act as an
yeah,
emergency brake. It just slows
yeah,
down the bike safely.
it just slows
So,
down the bike.
so you just feel the bike slowing down. In fact, we'll put a label. This is, we call it RDS, regenerative deceleration system. So we are not
Okay.
really tampering with your normal routine fully. That
Yeah.
you're not operating it like a bicycle, because if you've ridden a bike for, let's say, 5 years, then I tell you that now from now on you'll be braking with the right hand. Kidogo nitakuwa na kuweka kwa utata, especially if you'll be doing a lot of cruising. You may pull that thing, you usahau tu ni clutch, then you hit, that's an emergency brake, causes problems. We want a large chunk of your operations to remain as it was. So
Mm.
unfortunately, the rear brake did work as we wanted. So the expert will be joining us, I think, beginning of this week. Atupe feedback, tuone where he went wrong, and we'll carry on from there.
Okay. That's good
Mm.
progress. I've seen the current electric bikes do also have a kind of a, I don't know what its function is. It might be the same as yours, or it might be something different, or they might all be front brakes. But be on the left hand side, there is a lever you press on the left
Nyingi
hand
huwa
side of the
ni
car.
brakes, nyingi huwa ni brakes or
Mm.
imecombine braking na regenerative.
Original.
Regenerative na normal braking ziko combined, which I was not very happy with when I was talking to my musician, because I wanted the rider to feel that he's now using regenerative
Mhm.
braking for the time being fully. So now I'm happy. You can use regenerative braking purely on its own, and it tells you that
Okay.
I'm not wearing out my brake pads.
Yeah, I think it's a good plan. Let's see how
Mm.
it pans out.
Because if you do,
Yeah.
like you're doing 50 kilometers per hour and you use it, you can reduce to even 20 kilometers, and then you're also recharging your battery. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. So 58 minutes of unrehearsed,
Mhm.
unplanned talk. Tunasema asante sana. Robert SFDC, thank you for joining us. As usual, Sharif Mustafa, the Lone Wolf audience. Our friend with the boat, Lut family, hakutokea. We hope to see him next week with his boat. I hope he's floating
Might be
away.
out of coverage.
Ama he's floating on, I don't know, River Thames or wherever he is. Namtakia kila laheri. So from Athi River, can I say adios?
From Kigali, Rwanda. See ya.
Adios.
Adios.